We're going to go on the record. This is cause number 2020 CR 8682, the state of Texas versus Greg Anthony Delgado on the charge of murder. This is also case number 2020 CR 4972, the state of Texas versus Greg Anthony Delgado on the charge of aggravated assault against a public servant. This is also case number 2021 CR 3360, the state of Texas versus Greg Anthony Delgado on the charge of aggravated assault against a public servant. This is also cause number 2020 CR 4971, the state of Texas versus Greg Anthony Delgado on the charge of attempted capital murder of a police officer. This is cause number 2020 CR 4974, the state of Texas versus Greg Anthony Delgado on the charge of possession of a controlled substance, penalty group 1, 4 to 200 grams. And finally, this is cause number 2021 CR 0288, the state of Texas versus Greg Anthony Delgado on the charge of deadly weapon in a penal institution. On all of those matters, attorneys, please make your announcements for the record.
Gretchen Plater for the state.
Michael Young for Mr. Delgado.
Mr. Delgado is appearing in person. Go ahead and tell me your full name for the record.
Greg Anthony Delgado.
Very good. I could hear him. Can you hear him? Mr. Delgado, you heard me read the case number and the charge. In each of these matters, do you understand what is alleged in the indictment of each of these cases that you're going to enter a plea to?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to start with the charge of murder, the charge of attempted capital murder of a police officer, the charge of aggravated assault against a public servant. There's 2 of those charges. And the charge, and I already said murder. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 first-degree felonies. And then there is some other ones I'm going to admonish you after that. So on the first 4 matters that we're going to proceed on, those are first-degree felonies. Those are punishable by confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the Institutional Division, for any period between 5 and 99 years confinement or life confinement, and they also carry a possible fine of up to $10,000. Do you understand the range of punishment that applies to the 4 first-degree felonies you're going to enter a plea to?
Yes, ma'am.
On the possession of a controlled substance, penalty group 1, 4 to 200 grams, that's a second-degree felony. So that is punishable by confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the Institutional Division, for any period between 2 and 20 years confinement and a possible fine of up to $10,000. Do you understand that range of punishment?
Yes, ma'am.
And finally, on the charge of deadly weapon in a penal institution, that's a 3rd-degree felony, and that is punishable by confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the Institutional Division, for any period between 2 and 10 years confinement and also a possible fine of up to $10,000. Do you understand that range of punishment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. On all of these cases, you're going to enter a plea to 6 cases. On all of these felony cases that you're going to enter a plea to, you have the right to a jury trial on all of the cases. You have the right to cross-examine all of the witnesses against you. And you also have the right to remain silent. All of those are your constitutional rights. Do you understand those?
Yes, ma'am.
When you sign the court admonishments in each of these matters, what you're telling me is that in those cases, you're going to give up those constitutional rights. Is this your signature here at the bottom of this admonishment?
Yes, ma'am.
And that is for the ag assault against a public servant. And this is the second ag assault against a public servant. Is that your signature at the bottom? Right
Yes,
here.
ma'am.
On the charge of murder, is this your signature at the bottom?
Yes, ma'am. We can get a copy.
You got coffee right here.
On the charge of attempted capital murder, is this your electronic, not your electronic, I'm so used to saying electronic, I apologize, but is this your signature at the bottom?
Yes, ma'am.
On the charge of deadly weapon in a penal institution, is this your signature here at the bottom?
Yes, ma'am.
And finally, on the charge of possession of a controlled substance, penalty group 1, 4 to 200 grams. Is that your signature at the bottom?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Delgado, when you signed the document, like I explained to you earlier, you're telling me that you want to give up the constitutional rights that I explained earlier. Is that your intent in every one of these cases?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Delgado, are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes.
If you were not a citizen, I'm still required to tell you a plea of guilty or no contest to this charge could result in deportation, exclusion from admission to the country, or denial of naturalization under federal law. Mr. Delgado, are you satisfied with the representation of your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Young, does your client have a rational and factual understanding of the proceedings against him in every single one of these pleas?
He does.
Has he been able to assist you in the preparation of any defenses?
He has.
And in your opinion, is he mentally competent to waive his rights and enter into a plea?
He is.
I will accept the waiver of rights in each of these matters and make it part of the record. Mr. Delgado, I want to go over the plea bargains that you've made in each of these cases, and I want to ask you if this is your understanding of the agreement. And are all of his indictments repeaters?
Yes.
I will need the indictments, please. All right, Mr. Delgado, so let's get going with the plea bargain agreement. In the murder, the charge of murder, the agreement is that you will plead true to the felony enhancement paragraph. Punishment will be assessed at 50 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the Institutional Division. There is an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon or that the offense is not eligible for court-ordered, judge-ordered community supervision. There are no applications for probation, and all of your felonies that you're entering a plea to are going to run concurrent with one another. In consideration of your plea, the state will dismiss nine other felonies that are pending. Is that your understanding of the agreement that you made on the murder charge?
Yes, ma'am.
On the ag assault against a public servant, the plea bargain agreement calls for, it looks like the same terms, although there's no plea of true on this one. On 3360, punishment to be assessed at 50 years confinement, affirmative finding of a deadly weapon, no applications, concurrent with one another, and dismissing the same cases.
There is the enhancement paragraph, so that was just a mistake.
Okay, and it also calls for you to plead true to the repeater paragraph. Is that your understanding of the agreement on the ag assault deadly weapon? I'm sorry, ag assault against a public servant, Mr. Delgado?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now the second cause that is an ag assault against a public servant. Same terms and conditions. You will plead true to the enhancement paragraph. Punishment will be assessed at 50 years confinement, affirmative finding of deadly weapon, no applications, concurrent with one another, and same cases to be dismissed. In that case number, is that your agreement, Mr. Delgado?
Yes, ma'am.
As to the attempted capital murder of a police officer, on this case, the state will proceed on count 1. You will plead true to the enhancement paragraph. Punishment will be assessed at 50 years confinement, affirmative finding of deadly weapon, no applications, concurrent with all the other cases, and dismissing the same cases. Is that your agreement in that case?
Yes, ma'am.
And in the possession, I apologize, deadly weapon in a penal institution, the agreement calls for you to plead true to the enhancement paragraph. Punishment will be assessed at 10 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, affirmative finding of deadly weapon, no applications, concurrent with the other cases, and dismissing the remaining cases. Is that your understanding in that case?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Delgado, finally, on the charge of possession 4 to 200 grams, the agreement calls for you to, the state will proceed on the possession case count, which is count 2. You will plead true to the enhancement paragraph. Punishment will be assessed at 50 years confinement. An affirmative finding of deadly weapon, no applications concurrent with one another, and the state will dismiss the other cases. Is that your understanding in that case?
Yes, ma'am.
David, I'm going to read the cause numbers for the record. The causes that are running concurrent are 2020 CR 8682, 2021 CR 3360, 2020 CR 4972, 2020 CR 4971, 2021, I apologize, CR 0288, and 2020 CR 4974. All those matters will run concurrent. The state is going to dismiss Night Mag 641104, a JN, an unfiled case 2037969. The state will also dismiss 2021 CR 8644, 2020 CR 6643, 6644, 6645, 2022 CR 11019, 2021 CR 3361, and 2020 CR 4973. So all of those matters will be dismissed, and state, you have tendered those dismissals to me, correct?
Yes, Judge.
All right, Mr. Delgado, I'm going to take your pleas now. We're going to start with the murder charge. To the charge of murder as alleged in cause number 2020 CR 8682. What is your plea? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
No contest, ma'am.
On the charge of aggravated assault against a public servant in cause number 2021 CR 3360. What is your plea? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
Guilty.
In cause number 2020 CR 4972. On the charge of aggravated assault against a public servant, what is your plea? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
Guilty.
On the charge of attempted capital murder of a police officer in cause number 2020 CR 4971, what is your plea? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
Guilty.
On the charge of a deadly weapon in a penal institution in cause number 2021 CR 0288, what is your plea? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
Guilty.
And finally, on the charge of possession of a controlled substance, penalty group 1, 4 to 200 grams in cause number 2020 CR 4974. What is your plea? Is it guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
Guilty.
I see the indictments. The indictments. I need all the indictments. Okay, for enhancement purposes, is it the same cause number that he's going to enter a plea to?
Yes, Judge.
Mr. Delgado, I'm going to take your plea on the enhancement paragraphs. And the murder charge in cause number ending in 8682, what is your plea to the following paragraph, and I'll read the paragraph to you. Are you the same Greg Anthony Delgado that in cause number 2008 CR 6030 was convicted of the felony aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in Bexar County, Texas? Is that true or not true?
True.
On the charge of aggravated assault against a public servant, are you the same Greg Anthony Delgado that in cause number 2008 CR 6030 was convicted of the felony offense of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in Bexar County, Texas? Is that true or not true?
True.
On the charge of aggravated assault against a public servant in cause number 2021 CR 3360, are you the same Greg Anthony Delgado that was convicted of the felony offense of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in cause number 2008 CR 6030 in Bexar County, Texas? Is that true or not true?
True.
On the charge of attempted capital murder, are you the same Greg Anthony Delgado that in cause number 2008 CR 6030 was convicted of the felony offense of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon? Is that true or not true?
True.
And in cause number 2021 CR 0288, that's the charge of deadly weapon in a penal institution. Are you the same Greg Anthony Delgado that was found guilty of the felony offense of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in cause number 2008 CR 6030? Is that true or not true?
True.
And finally, in the cause number 2020 CR 4974, the charge of possession of a controlled substance, penalty group 1, 4 to 200 grams. Are you the same Greg Anthony Delgado that was found guilty of the felony offense of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in cause number 2008 CR 6030? Is that true or not true?
True.
I do find that all of the enhancement allegations are true. At this time, I am going to ask the state to tender its proof in each of these cases.
State offer states exhibit 1 and its attachment in each case.
Before I admit those, I do find that the pleas that Mr. Delgado has entered are voluntarily made, and I will accept all the pleas, and I will also admit states exhibit 1. Any objections?
No, Your Honor, no objections.
Okay, so Mr. Young, on each of these cases, I have a pretty substantial discovery acknowledgement on all of them. Are you satisfied that in each of these cases, the state has complied with 3914?
I am, Your Honor, to the best of my knowledge.
I will sign the discovery acknowledgement in each of these matters and make it part of the record. So I'm going to need some time to go through the exhibits. One more thing before I take a break. We had a pretrial hearing whereby we had an ex parte hearing, actually. It was an ex parte hearing on some discovery issues and some subpoenas that were issued by the defense. And that was a subpoena issued to the San Antonio Police Department. The city of San Antonio did comply with the subpoena. They did submit the appropriate materials. I held them in camera for review. I did not make a ruling on the admissibility of those because the plea was already reached. So having said that, I will admit that entire package that was brought over responsive to the subpoenas. I will mark it as defense 1. I will admit it and seal it for purposes of appeal. It will go with this record on appeal. Any objections to that?
None from the state judge.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so defense 1 is admitted and will be made part of the record. So give me just a few minutes to get through the paperwork, and then I'll get back on the record. Make sure, pull up all the indictments and make sure it's the same. Yeah. David, can we go on the record really quick? For purposes of the record, Defense Exhibit 1 consists of 16 DVDs. I'll double check, I think it's 16, and just one 2-page document that is front and back. That's all that's in there. I'll double check the count. All the DVDs and there's 15 or 16. The difference. Mhm. So, 15. So these are the 6 discovery. No, 12.
enhancement in this. And then this case, those are the case numbers that
Okay, so give me the indictment just for that one, I mean, for those two.
295 at the time.
Mhm.
Hey Laura, can you grab this and just tell him just that you're checking in, making sure he's still there, and say it's looking like Mr. Mulliner will be able to be with you in about 5 minutes, and he's very sorry for the delay.
Okay, she can have this one back. He has steps for 4974. This one, I don't think has, I haven't checked the files. Not for 4974. I'll keep looking, but I'll ask Gretchen when she comes back. The murder and attempted capital murder. So I don't have anything for 4974. Oh, I got it. Thank you. On state, on one of the ag assaults, there's no enhancement paragraph, so I'll let him withdraw the plea of true. Okay. The indictment that doesn't have the repeater, the steps are correct. He did, those are correct. I'm almost done. I have one more. I'm ready to go back on the record. right. Let's go back on the record. We're going to start with the murder case, Mr. Delgado. That's cause number 2020 CR 8682. I do find the evidence is sufficient to substantiate your guilt, and I will find you guilty of the offense of murder. I'm going to sentence you pursuant to your agreement to 50 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the Institutional Division. You do get credit for the time you have been in custody on this case. There's also an affirmative finding that a deadly weapon was used in the commission of this crime. This matter will run concurrent with 2020 CR 4972, 4974, 4971, 2021 CR 0288, and 3360. The state is also going to dismiss all of the cause numbers that I read into the record earlier, and I will sign those dismissals. With regards to this case, Mr. Delgado, this is a plea bargain case. I followed the plea bargain agreement. You do not have a right to appeal. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go on to the attempted capital murder. That's 2021 CR 4971. On the charge of attempted capital murder, I do find the evidence is sufficient to substantiate your guilt, and I will find you guilty. And I will assess punishment pursuant to your agreement to 50 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the Institutional Division. You do get credit for the time you've been in custody on this case. There is also an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon. This matter will run concurrent with 2020 CR 4972, 4974, 8682, 2021 CR 0288, and 3360. This is also a plea bargain case, Mr. Delgado. I followed the plea bargain agreement. You do not have a right to appeal this matter. We're going to move on to the aggravated assault against a public servant. That's the 2020 CR 4974. And just to be clear, this is the SAPD Officer Oliva. In this case, I do find the evidence is sufficient to substantiate your guilt, and I will find you guilty of the offense of aggravated assault against a public servant. For all of these matters, I did accept a plea of true so far on these three cases, and made the finding earlier on the record. Punishment in this case is also assessed at 50 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the Institutional Division. You do get credit for the time you've been in custody on this case. There is an affirmative finding that a deadly weapon was used in the commission of the crime. This matter will run concurrent with 2020 CR 4971, 4974, 8682, 2021 CR 0288, and 3360. This is a plea bargain case, Mr. Delgado. I did follow the agreement in this case as well. You do not have a right to appeal. We're going to move on to the aggravated assault against a public servant. This is for to distinguish it from the other case. This is the case involving the corporal inside the jail, Pennywell. I do find the evidence is sufficient to substantiate your guilt in this case. I will find you guilty. Before I pronounce sentence, however, I did mistakenly take a plea of true to the enhancement paragraph, but there is no enhancement paragraph. So I will allow your client to withdraw the plea of true if that's appropriate, Mr. Young.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So this is a straight first degree felony, no enhancement paragraph. Punishment will be 50 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the Institutional Division. And I apologize if I didn't say this earlier. I do find the evidence is sufficient to substantiate your guilt and find you guilty. There is also an affirmative finding that a deadly weapon was used in the commission of the crime. This matter will run concurrent with 2020 CR 4972, 4974, 8682, 2021 CR 0288, and 4971. This is a plea bargain case. Mr. Delgado, I followed your plea bargain agreement. You do not have a right to appeal this case. We're moving on to the deadly weapon in a penal institution. The offense date on this one is April 3rd, 2021, I believe. This is 2021 CR 0288. I do find the evidence is sufficient to substantiate your guilt, and I will find you guilty of the offense of deadly weapon, possession of a deadly weapon in a penal institution, and assess punishment at 10 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the institutional division. You do get credit for the time you have been in custody on this case, Mr. Delgado. There is also an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon in this case. This matter will run concurrent with 2020 CR 4972, 4974, 8680, 2021 CR 4971, and 2021 CR 3360. This is a plea bargain case. I did follow the plea bargain agreement. You do not have a right to appeal, Mr. Delgado. Finally, we have case number 2020 CR 4974. That's the possession of a controlled substance, penalty group 1, 4 to 200 grams. I find you guilty of count 2 in the indictment. I have already found the enhancement paragraph to be true, so I will sentence you to 50 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the institutional division. You do get credit for the time that you have been in custody on this case. There is an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon in this matter. This will also run concurrent with 2020 4972, 4971, 2020 CR 8682, 2021 CR 0288, and 3360. This is also a plea bargain case. I followed the plea bargain agreement in this case, so you do not have a right to appeal. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
For purposes of the record, I have been tendered dismissals in cause number 2020 CR 4973. That's a felon in possession of a firearm. 2021 CR 3361. That's another deadly weapon in a penal institution. 2020 CR 11019, deadly weapon in penal institution. 2020 CR 6645, deadly weapon in penal institution. 2020 CR 6644, deadly weapon in a penal institution. 2020 CR 6643, deadly weapon in a penal institution. 2021 CR 8644, aggravated assault. Night Mag 641104, deadly weapon in a penal institution. Those are the dismissals I have. I will sign those while there's the victim impact statement that's being done. Mr. Delgado, after the impact statement is done, you will be remanded to the sheriff's custody to begin your sentence on these cases. You may proceed.
Y yo soy la mamá de Luis Guerrero.
I am Luis Guerrero's mom.
No quiere saber por qué le arrebataste la vida a mi hijo.
I just want to know why you took my son's life away.
Mm-mm.
Y él era un hijo amoroso.
He was a loving son.
Era un hijo que él siempre llegaba a mi casa y siempre me llegaba abrazando, besándome.
He always came to my house and he always hugged me and kissed me.
Y siempre me decía, madre, te quiero mucho.
He always told me, mother, I love you very much.
Él siempre salía en el teléfono con pistolas
He was always with guns on his phone.
y me decía que las pistolas eran de su amigo.
And he told me the guns were his friends.
Yo siempre le dije que él no era un buen amigo.
I always told him he was not a good friend.
Y yo dije que lo que estaba buscando era cárcel o muerte.
And I told him that what he was seeking was either jail or death.
Nomás quiero decirte que te perdono.
I just want to tell you I forgive you.
No soy nadie para juzgarte.
I am no one to judge you.
Y me dejaste un dolor muy grande en mi vida.
And you have given me great sorrow in my life.
Greg, I would like to think that this Monday was like just any other Monday. Instead, we're here. With the youth here since was that the morning of February 21st, 2020. He took not only the life of a good friend, but also a brother, a uncle, most importantly, a son. We can stand here and offend you, but that's not within our hearts. Nothing we do or say or act upon would ever bring our brother back. I truly hope that you use this time in prison to influence others, other young men to do better in life. We don't expect you to change the world, but I'm sure with your words, you can at least impact someone else's life and make a change for them. You have left us with a forever heartache. It will never go away. I still cannot understand why our brother, why someone so special, someone who would light up the entire room with his character, someone so sweet, the most loving, goofy brother, he would truly be missed. Ultimately, we're not the ones to judge, but our Lord will. I hope you please hope that you seek forgiveness in our Lord. And then you. Words. We can say that something's gonna break us up further back. I can't sit and explain to my little boy why his tío's not with him no more. I was the single mom for 6 years, and my brother was like his dad. And now every year he asks me if we're gonna see his uncle. Where's his uncle on his birthday? And I can't. What do I tell my little boy?
Thank you, Judge. Thank you.
Yes, actually, I need to see both attorneys up here. Yes, he needs to be present. David, let's find the record. Earlier when I admitted defense. Earlier when I admitted defense 1, I realized that there was a bigger stack of documents that was part of it, but it was mistakenly placed in the public file, so I'm taking that out. And sorry, I didn't realize I was muted, but does anybody need to make a